close your eyes and imagine paradise. What comes to mind? White clouds, angels strumming harps, everlasting peace. But what if I told you that paradise has concrete architectural blueprints, that hidden within the sacred texts of various cultures are detailed schematics of a perfect world, a world with streets paved in gold, rivers flowing with milk, and palaces that defy human imagination? Today, we won't just dream. We'll become architects and explorers, diving deep into these secret plans. We'll compare how paradise is envisioned in Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and even the myths of the Vikings. Get ready, because some of these visions of the ideal world might truly shock you. And by the end, you'll realize that these fantastic constructions reveal more about us, the people, than they do about the divine. Before we begin our tour, let's figure out why humans began designing paradise in the first place. The idea of a perfect world after death isn't just a charming fable. It's an incredibly potent psychological tool. For ancient people whose lives were fraught with danger, famine, and injustice, paradise offered a guarantee of reward and absolute safety. It was a world where every wrong was righted. The starving dreamed of endless fruit in heavenly gardens. Those weary of war longed for eternal peace. The architecture of paradise is thus a mirror. It reflects the deepest fears, hopes, and core values of the culture that created it. By examining these celestial schematics, we are in essence studying the very soul of the people who designed them. So, our journey begins with the most familiar archetype of paradise, the garden. Let's start with the fundamentals, the Abrahamic faiths. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all share a common starting point, the concept of the Garden of Eden. In Judaism, this is specifically known as Gan Eden. But Gan Eden is viewed less as a place of future reward and more as a powerful memory of lost harmony. The only architecture here is the architecture of nature itself, in its most pristine and perfect state. Picture a world without predator or prey, where the soil yields its bounty without heavy toil, and humanity lives in perfect accord with God and all of creation. A key symbolic element is the dual stream that divides into 4 rivers, irrigating the entire garden, a profound symbol of life and infinite abundance. There are no structures of gold or gems here. The primary value isn't material wealth, it is life itself, pure and unspoiled. For the observant Jew, paradise is less about floating among the clouds and more about the restoration of this perfect order right here on earth, within the coming world known as Olam Haba. Christianity takes the foundational concept of the garden and scales it up to the size of an entire metropolis. While the Garden of Eden is crucial, the ultimate vision of Christian paradise is the New Jerusalem, detailed in the Book of Revelation, and this is where the real architectural spectacle begins. You can forget about modesty entirely. This is a city descending from heaven to earth. Its defining characteristic is light. It has no need for the sun or the moon, because it is illuminated by the very glory of God. Picture a city constructed entirely of pure gold, gold so utterly refined that it is transparent like glass. This isn't simply a display of wealth. It is the ultimate symbol of divine purity and holiness. The city's foundations are adorned with 12 precious stones, running the full spectrum from jasper to amethyst, and the entire structure is enclosed by a massive high wall. This is not just architecture designed for beauty, but a testament to absolute security and eternity. The New Jerusalem represents the ultimate triumph of order over chaos. Let's take a closer look at the details of the New Jerusalem. This celestial city possesses 12 gates, and here's the astonishing part. Each gate is fashioned from a single, massive pearl. Can you even imagine that? Not built from many pearls, but from one singular pearl. Inscribed on each gate is the name of one of the 12 tribes of Israel, symbolizing the ultimate unity of all believers. Flowing through the city is the river of the water of life, clear as crystal, and along its banks grows the tree of life. Unlike the Garden of Eden, where there was just one instance, here the tree yields fruit 12 times a year, and its leaves are meant for the healing of the nations. And here is a truly shocking detail. There is no temple within this city. The temple was historically the dwelling place, the meeting point with God. But in the New Jerusalem, God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple. The entire urban environment is transformed into a sanctuary, a space for direct and immediate communion with the divine. This is the final culmination, where architecture and theology merge into one seamless reality. Now let's turn our attention eastward and explore the Islamic vision of paradise, known as Jannah, a term that literally means gardens. If the Christian heaven is often envisioned as a magnificent city, the Islamic counterpart is a lavish, multi-tiered park complex. Jannah isn't just a single garden, but a multitude of them, arranged across various levels, each level more exquisite than the last. The higher the level, the closer the dweller is to the throne of Allah. This design embodies an architecture of hierarchy and reward, where the righteous receive their dwellings in accordance with their good deeds on earth. The very foundation of Jannah is water. The Quran repeatedly describes these gardens as places beneath which rivers flow. This is a monumentally important image, particularly for a culture that originated in the desert, where water is synonymous with life itself and the ultimate blessing. Jannah is designed as a complete sensory experience. It doesn't just offer beautiful vistas, it includes the sweet fragrance of musk, refreshing shade, and the soothing sound of flowing water. When Jannah is described, the rivers are given exceptional focus. These aren't just streams of water. Islamic paradise features 4 distinct types of rivers: rivers of pure, untainted water that never spoils, rivers of milk whose flavour remains eternally fresh, rivers of wine that grant deep pleasure without causing intoxication, and rivers of pure, clarified honey. Imagine the landscape design, where these exquisite flows paint an unbelievable picture of purity and immense abundance. This architectural feature directly appeals to fundamental human desires, the quenching of thirst, the satisfying of hunger, and the quest for pleasure, but presents them in their perfect divine form. These rivers are far more than mere decorative elements. They stand as symbols of the eternal, untarnished divine blessings awaiting the faithful. It represents the complete and total satisfaction of every sense, free from any of the negative consequences inherent to our earthly existence. So, where exactly do the residents of Jannah live? Certainly not exposed to the elements. The Quran describes truly luxurious dwellings, built specifically for them. These include towering palaces and lavish pavilions, fashioned from pearls and precious stones. The believers will recline on adorned couches, draped in silk and brocade, enjoying the fruits of paradise, fruits that effortlessly lower themselves so they can be easily plucked. The architecture here is designed to emphasize ultimate comfort, profound tranquility, and utmost honor. Imagine infinite pavilions nestled within shaded gardens, where there is neither scorching heat nor biting cold. Everything is created for complete serenity and absolute delight. An important detail, these mansions lack locks and walls in the conventional sense, because paradise is devoid of fear, envy, or hostility. It is an open, welcoming space where all residents live together as brothers and sisters. This truly is the architecture of absolute trust and perfect social harmony. Now let's make a conceptual leap and shift our focus to the dharmic religions, specifically Hinduism and Buddhism. Here, the concept of heaven becomes much more complex. It's often not the ultimate destination. In Hinduism, there are actually multiple heavenly realms known as lokas. One of the most prominent is Svarga, the domain of the god Indra. This is a temporary heaven, a place souls visit as a reward for their accumulation of good deeds. Svarga's architecture is magnificent. Picture celestial gardens, vast palaces where the gods reside, and the wish-fulfilling tree, the Kalpavriksha. It is a place of pure enjoyment, music, and dance. But the critical word here is temporary. Once that reserve of good karma is depleted, the soul must inevitably return to the cycle of rebirth on earth. So, for all its beauty, Svarga is less of an eternal home and more of a luxurious, temporary hotel stay. The ultimate goal remains moksha, liberation from the entire cycle of reincarnation. For those who attain the higher spiritual levels in Hinduism, especially within Vaishnavism, there exists an eternal paradise known as Vaikuntha. It is the supreme spiritual dwelling of Lord Vishnu. Its architecture defies material comprehension, completely transcending all earthly limits. Descriptions tell us that everything in Vaikuntha is fully conscious and composed entirely of pure spiritual energy. The palaces are crafted from wish-fulfilling gems, and the gardens are filled with trees that grant every desire. The residents of Vaikuntha possess bodies similar to Vishnu himself, four-armed and eternally engaged in his loving devotional service. Light in this realm does not originate from the sun, but from the effulgence of Vishnu and his eternal companions. This is not merely a place of rest. It is a vibrant centre of active spiritual life and unending ecstasy. The very architecture of Vaikuntha manifests absolute spiritual harmony, a realm where there is not even a trace of material suffering or limitation. In Buddhism, the concept of paradise is even more multifaceted. This refers to the concept of the Pure Lands. These aren't exactly heaven in the typical Western sense, but rather idealized realms created by enlightened Buddhas. The most famous of these is Sukhavati, the Pure Land of Amitabha Buddha. Accessing this realm is achieved less through accumulating good karma, and more through sincere faith and the constant recitation of Amitabha's name. The architecture of Sukhavati is truly astonishing. The ground itself is said to be made of gold, and the palaces and pavilions are constructed from 7 different kinds of precious jewels. Even the trees are formed from gemstones, and when the wind blows through them, they emit a beautiful music that teaches the Dharma, the core Buddhist doctrine. Crucially, this is not a location for purely hedonistic pleasure. It is instead the ideal university for achieving enlightenment. Everything within this realm is specifically structured and designed to aid sentient beings on their definitive path toward Nirvana. Let's delve into the details of Sukhavati's architecture. You'll find lotus ponds there, and the water itself possesses 8 distinct qualities. It's cool, sweet, and even satisfies hunger. The bottom of these lakes is paved with golden sand. Whenever a resident of the Pure Land wishes to bathe, the water automatically rises to the precise level they require. The birds in Sukhavati are not mere creatures. They are manifestations of Amitabha Buddha himself, and their beautiful songs function as profound teachings. There is no night here, no harsh weather, no sickness, and no old age. Even food appears spontaneously on jewel-encrusted trays, vanishing the moment the person is satisfied. The entire landscape and architecture of Sukhavati functions as one vast, interactive learning environment. Its primary goal is to eliminate every distraction and obstacle that might impede meditation and spiritual growth. This is a paradise designed for the dedicated student, not the casual tourist. But what exactly is Nirvana, the ultimate goal of Buddhism? This is where we run into the fascinating concept of anti-architecture. Nirvana is not a place. It has no blueprints, no walls, no gardens, no rivers. The word Nirvana literally translates to extinction or blowing out. It signifies the dying out of passions, desires, hatred, and ignorance, everything that ties us to the cycle of suffering and rebirth. If all other heavens or paradise states are idealized buildings or spaces, Nirvana is the complete liberation from the very need for any space at all. It is a state of absolute tranquility and freedom, impossible to describe in words or to visualize. It isn't a something, but rather the cessation of something. This is why Nirvana has no architecture. It is the most radical concept of an ideal world, because it proposes not to improve the world, but to transcend it entirely. Now let's move beyond the great world religions and delve into the captivating mythology of ancient civilizations. We start with ancient Egypt. Their concept of paradise was known as the Fields of Aaru, or sometimes the Fields of Reeds. What's fascinating is that the architecture of this afterlife was surprisingly familiar and remarkably earthly. The ancient Egyptians imagined the afterlife as simply an idealized version of the Nile River Valley. It was a landscape of fertile fields, crisscrossed by canals of pure water, where the deceased were expected to continue their agricultural duties. Yes, you heard that right. In Egyptian paradise, you actually had to work. The good news was that this labour was light and promised bountiful harvests. To bypass even this gentle workload, wealthy Egyptians placed special servant figurines, called ushabti, inside their tombs. These figures were meant to work in their stead. The fields of Aaru represented a paradise of pure stability and predictability. It was fundamentally a farmer's dream, rather than the reward of a warrior or a mystic. Its architecture epitomizes order, fertility, and the eternal repetition of a prosperous earthly cycle. Now let's head north into the harsh lands of the Vikings. Their concept of paradise perfectly matched their warrior lifestyle. Their most famous afterlife is Valhalla, the legendary Hall of the Slain. It wasn't a garden or a peaceful city. It was a gigantic feasting hall belonging to the god Odin. Valhalla's architecture was appropriately grand and martial. Its roof was said to be made of gilded shields, with spears serving as the rafters. Only warriors who had died bravely in combat were admitted to this hall. And what exactly did they do once they arrived? Every day they marched out onto the field and fought brutal duels against one another. But by evening, all their wounds instantly healed. The fallen were resurrected, and they would all return to Valhalla to feast through the night, drinking mead and eating the meat of the boar Serene, who magically revived every single day. It was a paradise of eternal battle and unending celebration. The structure of Valhalla was designed not for peace or rest, but for endless rigorous training. After all, these warriors, the Einherjar, were being prepared for the final, cataclysmic battle, Ragnarök. But was Valhalla the only afterlife option for Vikings? It turns out, no. There was another destination, one spoken of less often, Folkvanga, or the Field of the Host. This was the realm of the goddess Freya, and she was entitled to claim half of the warriors who fell in battle. Unlike Valhalla, which is described as a vast, booming hall, Folkvanga is depicted as a beautiful field or meadow. At the centre of this field stood Freya's own grand hall, Sessrumnir. Unfortunately, far fewer detailed descriptions of this specific location survive, but the core concept itself offers a profound alternative. If Valhalla represents the quintessential masculine warrior paradise, Folkvanga, ruled by the goddess of love and fertility, might have been envisioned as a more peaceful, perhaps even harmonious destination. This demonstrates that even within a single cultural framework, Vikings had different blueprints for the afterlife, designed to reflect varying values and likely appealing to different patron deities. Let's journey back to the sunlit world of ancient Greece. Their concept of paradise for heroes and the righteous was known as Elysium, or the Elysian Fields. Unlike the grim and shadowy realm of Hades, Elysium was a land of eternal light and pure bliss. Its architecture, however, was primarily natural. It consisted of beautiful meadows situated at the edge of the world, bathed in the gentle breath of the zephyr breeze, where eternal spring reigned supreme. There was no need for toil. The fertile earth spontaneously yielded 3 generous harvests annually. Heroes passed their time engaged in athletic contests, philosophical discourse, and the enjoyment of music. It was a true paradise of leisure and well-deserved repose. Crucially, it contained neither the grandiose, constructed cities of the New Jerusalem, nor the boastful martial halls of Valhalla. Instead, it was an idealized Mediterranean idyll, the ultimate dream for a hero weary of earthly conflict and endless feats of bravery. The fundamental principle of Elysium was simple: the perfect harmony between humanity and a nature that was both deeply peaceful and infinitely generous. But what about the Celts, the enigmatic dwellers of ancient Europe? They had their own unique version of paradise, often referred to as the Isles of the Blessed, or, more commonly, the Otherworld. These mythical islands, like Avalon, were said to lie far to the west, beyond the edge of the known world. Access was restricted. You could only enter if invited by their inhabitants, the magical people known as the Shide. The very architecture of these realms was enchanting. Time there flowed differently. A single year might feel like just one day. These were lands of eternal youth, untouched by illness, aging, or death. Apple trees bore fruits of immortality, sustaining an endless celebration. These worlds were often depicted as shimmering glass towers or islands floating magically in the air. It wasn't simply a resting place for the dead. It was a vibrant, parallel dimension, filled with pure magic, music, and deep mysteries. The Celtic concept of paradise is the ultimate architecture of escapism, a profound flight from harsh reality into a realm of eternal wonder. Let's turn our attention back to one of the most ancient concepts of paradise that profoundly influenced many subsequent cultures, the Mesopotamian tradition. In Sumerian mythology, this place was known as the land of Dilmun. This was a realm described as pure, bright, and undefiled, where there was no sickness, death, or sorrow. The lion did not prey upon the lamb, and the raven kept its ominous silence. Yet, this otherwise perfect land had a crucial flaw: a lack of fresh water. The god Enki commanded the sun, god Utu, to bring forth water from beneath the earth. Dilmun was instantly transformed into a divine garden, lush with fruit trees. Many scholars suggest that the myth of Dilmun served as the direct prototype for the biblical Garden of Eden. Its essential architecture is simple. It is, at its heart, an oasis. This dream of paradise was born from the harsh reality of arid Mesopotamia, where water and greenery were considered the highest possible blessings. But what about paradise in Zoroastrianism, one of the world's most ancient religions? Their paradise is called Garodmana, which translates to the house of song. The soul of the righteous reaches this place after successfully crossing the Chimvat Bridge. Its architecture is literally built from light and music. It is described as the realm of endless light, where the souls of the righteous bask in eternal bliss, singing praises to Ahura Mazda, their supreme deity. Interestingly, Zoroastrianism posits several distinct levels of paradise, corresponding to the three main virtues: good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. The more righteous a person's life on earth, the higher the level of paradise they achieve. The House of Song is less a physical location. It doesn't involve palaces or gardens, and more a state of complete spiritual fusion with divine light and harmony. It is an architecture constructed purely from sound and light. Interestingly, the drive to engineer paradise hasn't faded in our modern era. It has simply taken on distinctly secular, non-religious forms. Just look at science fiction. We see utopian worlds where technology has conquered disease, aging, and even death itself. Think of virtual realities where consciousness can be uploaded, allowing us to live forever, much like the famous San Junipero episode of Black Mirror. These are our modern blueprints for heaven. Their architecture consists of clean, minimalistic cities, cyberspace, or even entire artificial planets. Crucially, they reflect our current values: a relentless pursuit of technological progress, individual liberty, and immortality achieved through data rather than through the soul. This proves that the fundamental human desire to engineer the perfect world hasn't vanished. It has simply switched its language from the theological to the technological. So, what connects these seemingly disparate architectural projects? Golden cities, perpetual gardens, vast feasting halls, and even complex virtual worlds. For all their diversity, they are all built upon the very same foundation: a dream, a world free of pain, fear, and injustice. It is the aspiration for abundance where there was scarcity, for peace where there was conflict, for eternity in the face of death. The architecture of paradise is, fundamentally, the architecture of hope. Every civilization constructed its ideal realm using the very elements most desperately lacking in their earthly existence. Warriors dreamt of eternal glory. Farmers dreamt of endless harvest. Philosophers dreamt of timeless truth. In studying these celestial blueprints, we uncover more than just fantasies. We find the very essence of the human spirit, a spirit that has always yearned to construct a better world, even if only within the confines of a dream. Well, we've completed an incredible journey. We've seen that paradise isn't just about clouds and angels, it's about intricate architectural blueprints that reflect the very soul of entire civilizations. We visited the shining city of New Jerusalem, walked through the multi-tiered gardens of Jannah, feasted in the halls of Valhalla, and meditated in the perfect landscapes of Sukhavat. And perhaps the biggest takeaway, the ultimate plot twist, is this. These images, from the garden to the city, from the feasting hall to the state of ultimate transcendence, speak less about what awaits us after life, and much more about what we desperately lack in life. It is the universal human dream of justice, abundance, and security. Thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you found it fascinating to look through these celestial blueprints, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our new explorations. Now, for the final question for you, if you were the architect of your own personal paradise, what would it look like? Describe it in the comments below. Let's collect the most incredible ideal worlds imaginable.